They prank people for fame, but everything turns into a nightmare when their target becomes a real killer. The film begins by showing several CCTV recordings of a building at night. From the perspective of the surveillance cameras, the building appears quiet and almost completely empty. Not long after, a car stops in front of the building, and a man named George steps out of the vehicle before walking inside. It is later revealed that the building is a morgue, a place where the bodies of the deceased are handled before being processed further. George has actually just started his job as a night shift security guard at the facility, and that night happens to be his very first shift there. Because George is still new, a female employee who works at the place kindly offers to give him a tour, showing him several rooms and explaining how the work process in the building operates. As they step out of the elevator, they briefly pass by a doctor named Suze, who has a very cold and stern attitude. She only glances at them without saying a single word. After that, the female employee brings George to a special room where bodies are usually handled. There, she explains that if a body arrives during the night, George's job is actually quite simple. He only needs to open the main gate and help guide the body into this room, so it can be handled by the responsible staff. During their casual conversation, the employee suddenly asks whether George is the type of person who easily gets scared while working in a place like this. George confidently answers that he is not easily frightened because he feels he is already used to things related to death. However, the woman responds in a half-joking tone that many people have experienced strange events in that room. She even claims that she once saw something completely unbelievable, a corpse suddenly sitting up by itself. She also adds that the previous security guard quit the job after only working his very first night there. While the conversation continues, George briefly notices something odd, a strand of hair stuck in the bone saw inside the room. After the short tour is finished, the woman escorts George to the security booth where he will spend the rest of the night on duty. There, she shows him the equipment available and explains several important things he should pay attention to while working. Before leaving George alone, the woman writes down her phone number on a piece of paper and gives it to him so he can contact her if something urgent happens.
This is the nerve center. Everything you need is in here. Give me a call if you do have any trouble.
After making sure everything is clear, she finally leaves the building and George begins his first shift by himself. Several hours later, as the night grows deeper and the building becomes even quieter, one of the CCTV cameras briefly captures a mysterious figure moving in a corner of the building while George unknowingly falls asleep in the security booth during his first night on duty. He wakes up when the doorbell suddenly rings, making him quickly head to the entrance to see who has arrived. But when he opens the door, he only finds a body bag lying there, while the person who supposedly delivered it is nowhere to be seen around the building. Feeling increasingly uneasy, George slowly pushes the body bag through the elevator and brings it to the body processing room as previously explained. However, while he is moving it, the body inside the bag suddenly sits upright, causing George to jump in shock and fear. Even so, his curiosity pushes him to move closer to confirm what is really happening. He slowly unzips the body bag and sees the body of a young woman inside. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, the girl suddenly opens her eyes, which sends George into panic and makes him run back to the security booth to call the female employee who gave him the tour earlier. In a nervous voice, he explains everything strange that just happened to him, but the woman assumes that George is only joking or trying to scare her. While still inside the booth, George then looks at the CCTV monitor and sees something that makes his heart beat even faster. The girl who was inside the body bag is now seen walking slowly toward the security booth with a terrifying movement. Within seconds, the figure is already standing right in front of the booth, making George almost lose his nerve. But just as the tension reaches its peak, the truth is finally revealed that everything terrifying that just happened is actually part of a prank that had been planned beforehand.
Cute.
The female employee who previously accompanied George turns out to be Emma, and she, along with her team, is filming a horror prank television show called Scare Campaign. The show is led by a man named Marcus, who works together with his assistant Dick and several other crew members. Meanwhile, the girl who played the corpse is actually an actress named Ayako, who was hired to perform the role. At first, the entire team enjoys the success of the prank while playing additional creepy sounds through the audio system inside George's security booth. However, the situation suddenly changes when George unexpectedly pulls out a pistol. Realizing the situation could become dangerous, Emma quickly tries to warn Ayako through the intercom to stop the act immediately, but their communication suddenly cuts off. Without thinking twice, Emma runs toward the location to stop everything before something terrible happens.
JD, sorry.
Mate, you're gonna have to say that carry gag another day.
All right, we're calling time, everyone. Tone, Suze?
Yes, boss.
At the same time, Marcus orders the other crew members such as Suze, Tony, and JD to immediately stop the prank. Not long after that, Ayako appears in front of George while screaming loudly as if she is possessed, right before George has the chance to do something reckless. Fortunately, Emma arrives just in time and immediately reveals that everything that happened is only part of their prank show. When Emma takes the pistol from George, she realizes that the gun is actually just a toy gun. A few moments later, Marcus and the rest of the crew come out from their hiding places while the cameras continue recording George's reaction, who is still overwhelmed with embarrassment and fear. Emma then explains that George has just become part of an episode of the television show Scare Campaign.
Stop! George! Just give me the gun before things escalate any further. I've been here all along, George, watching.
Looks like we got you good there, big fella.
Go for a jaw-drawn scare campaign.
After that incident ends, the story shifts to another room where the scare campaign team is holding a casting session to find a new performer. There, a girl named Abby is seen sitting across from Marcus, who is interviewing her for the role of the female horror character in the show. Marcus asks several questions to evaluate Abby's abilities and even asks her to demonstrate fear by screaming as if she were trapped in a terrifying situation in order to test the quality of her acting. Unexpectedly, Abby delivers a performance that feels incredibly convincing and natural, immediately catching Marcus's attention and prompting him to recruit her on the spot without considering any other candidates. Not long after the casting session ends, Marcus receives a phone call from their boss, Vicky. From the tone of the conversation, it is clear that the matter being discussed is serious, because Vicky asks the entire team to attend an emergency meeting as soon as possible. After hanging up the call, Marcus walks into another room where Dick is busy showing the latest edited footage from their previous episode. While the room is still filled with discussions about their recordings, Emma suddenly interrupts the conversation by saying that she wants to leave the show. Hearing that statement, Marcus immediately asks Dick to leave the room so he can speak privately with Emma. Once they are alone, Emma vents all of her frustration. She explains that lately she has been feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the concept of their pranks, which seem to be becoming more and more dangerous. In her opinion, the pranks may look entertaining for viewers, but the risks keep growing, especially if one day they accidentally choose the wrong target who cannot control his emotions. Emma fears that sooner or later the situation could become genuinely dangerous and end with something terrible happening. However, Marcus views the situation from a different perspective. According to him, the main appeal of their show lies in unpredictable reactions, and going slightly beyond the script often makes the results more intense and entertaining for the audience. He then tries to calm Emma by asking her to stay at least until the end of the season, assuring her that everything is still within controllable limits. During the conversation, it's also revealed that Marcus and Emma were once in a relationship. Although they are no longer together, they still maintain a certain closeness.
Who is worried that one day we're going to prank the wrong guy. I'm a bit conflicted right now, Marcus, but I mean it this time.
Come on, we all know the best pranks are the ones that go a little bit off script. We get the finale in the can and the season's done. You didn't need to go to all this trouble, you know.
Sometime later, the entire crew gathers in the meeting room to discuss the plan for their next episode. In front of everyone, Marcus explains the concept of the new prank they are going to film, which will take place in an abandoned mental hospital that has been closed since the 1990s. The location is chosen because its gloomy atmosphere and mysterious history are considered perfect for creating a tense and frightening setting. Not long after the meeting begins, Vicky arrives carrying information that she considers extremely important for the future of their show. She then opens a website on the internet that exists on the dark web called Masked Freaks. The site contains various recordings that feature extreme and shocking actions presented as entertainment.
Aren't you, Aaron?
It's a plug-in time.
One of the videos shown displays a ritual human sacrifice scene that at first appears to be poorly acted. Seeing the stiff and exaggerated acting, several members of the team even laugh, assuming that the video is nothing more than cheap entertainment. However, Vicky quickly stops them and says that the real part of the video is about to begin. Moments later, the atmosphere of the video changes drastically when a group of mysterious figures wearing terrifying masks suddenly appear and begin attacking the actors involved in the ritual. The violence that follows looks disturbingly brutal and extremely real, leaving Marcus and the entire team silent as they can no longer tell whether what they are watching is merely acting or something that actually happened. After the video finishes playing, Vicky explains that Masked Freaks has become extremely popular among young audiences. Many people are even willing to pay large amounts of money to gain access to their content, and the channel already has more than 15 million subscribers and continues to grow. Seeing that level of popularity, Vicky then expresses her concern about the future of Scare Campaign. She explains that the show's ratings have been steadily declining, while their latest episodes are starting to feel ordinary to viewers. Because of that, she gives Marcus one final chance to prove that the show is still worth continuing. If their next episode receives a poor response, the program will most likely be canceled entirely. That decision makes the entire team realize that they are now in a very difficult position, because the success of their next prank will determine whether their show can continue or not.
Vicious than the last. This one was only posted this morning. A couple of months ago, it was just cruel pranks. The Masked Freaks are a well-drilled, well-resourced 15 million subscribers and growing by the day. The kids are paying for this stuff. Terrestrials dying. It crept up on us while we were looking the other way. Scare Campaign has lost its edge. You've got one more ep to prove you've still got the goods. Be creative.
Not long after that, the story moves to the next filming location, which is the abandoned mental hospital that was previously mentioned during the meeting. The old building is filled with empty hallways and rooms that have not been used for years, creating the perfect atmosphere for a horror-themed prank. The entire crew is busy setting up various equipment, from hidden cameras to audio recording devices placed throughout the building, so every reaction from the target can be captured clearly. Meanwhile, Abby is being prepared by the makeup team to appear as a ghostly figure who will play a major role in their scenario. In the middle of all the preparations, Emma still looks uneasy and continues asking questions about the target they are about to prank. She feels the need to make sure that everything is truly safe before the prank begins. However, Marcus keeps reassuring her that the entire plan has been carefully prepared and nothing dangerous will happen.
Marcus, we need to talk about the stooge.
You got nothing to worry about, okay? It's your swan song, yeah? Can we roll through the sound cues, Dick?
Not long after that, their new target, a man named Rohan, finally arrives at the location. Dick, who is monitoring the area through the cameras, immediately signals the entire crew to get into position because the new episode is about to begin. According to the scenario they have prepared, Emma plays an important role by disguising herself as a nurse who supposedly works at the facility. She approaches Rohan in the garden area of the mental hospital and begins speaking with him casually. Rohan appears calm while looking around the garden and even says that he once worked at that place in the past. With a slightly nervous tone, Emma explains that the building is being considered for reopening as a children's therapy center in a few months, which is why they are currently looking for someone who can watch over the property. While they are talking, Rohan suddenly turns his head toward one of the windows and notices Abby standing silently inside the room with a frightening appearance. Realizing the situation, Suze, who is disguised as a gardener, quickly tries to distract Rohan so he will not stare at the window for too long. When Rohan looks back toward the same window again, the figure he saw earlier has already disappeared. Feeling confused, Rohan asks Emma whether the girl he saw earlier is one of the patients there. Emma calmly replies that the hospital has not received any patients yet. After that, Emma invites Rohan into one of the rooms, pretending that they need to continue the job interview.
Take a seat.
Frankly, Miss Agatha, yes, I'm on my way around all the nooks and crannies. For a good period of time, yes.
She acts as if she is checking some documents on the desk while continuing to ask him questions. During their conversation, Rohan says that he knows the building very well because he remembers almost every corner of it. He even claims that the mental hospital once had a very close connection to his life in the past. When his eyes land on an old photograph hanging on the wall, he begins murmuring quietly as if recalling something from memory. Emma, feeling curious, asks what he means, but Rohan suddenly reacts angrily and tells her not to interfere in his personal matters. Just as the atmosphere becomes awkward, the phone in the room suddenly rings. When Emma answers it, Marcus's voice is heard on the other end of the line. He explains that Rohan is a very special target for this episode, and if the prank works successfully, the result could become a huge episode for their show. Hearing that, Emma once again tries to stop the plan because the situation is starting to make her uncomfortable. However, before she can say anything more, Marcus abruptly hangs up the call. Feeling annoyed that the call was ended so suddenly, Emma decides to leave the room and go find Marcus directly, leaving Rohan alone in the room without supervision. At the same time, Marcus chooses to continue the prank according to the scenario they have prepared. Together with Dick, he opens the hallway door and plays a creepy recording that sounds like a small child crying. The sound immediately attracts Rohan's attention, causing him to leave the room and slowly follow the direction of the sound through the dark and silent hospital corridors.
That's the shit I live for. Okay, Suze, you in position?
Behind you. Special hiding spot.
As Rohan walks deeper into the building, Suze, who has already positioned herself in one corner of the hallway, gives a signal by tossing a small ball, deliberately directing Rohan's attention toward Abby, who is standing in the distance dressed like a ghost. Instead of looking frightened or panicked, Rohan appears calm and begins walking toward Abby. Every movement is carefully monitored by Marcus and the rest of the crew through the CCTV cameras installed throughout the building. Not long after that, Rohan arrives at an old room on the upper floor. Inside that room, Tony is hiding behind some hanging clothes while recording Rohan's reactions with the camera he's holding. At the same time, Emma, who has returned to the control room, watches everything happening through the monitors. Seeing that the entire scenario is approaching its climax, Marcus decides to initiate the final phase of the prank, which is to have Abby confront the target directly so the climax moment can be recorded clearly. However, just as Marcus signals Abby to begin her part, Emma suddenly realizes something that makes her feel uneasy. She remembers that earlier there was a sharp letter opener on the desk in her office, but now the object is no longer there. A wave of anxiety immediately hits her because she realizes that the object could now be in Rohan's hands. Panicking, Emma tries to stop the prank before something terrible happens, but it is already too late. Within seconds, the situation turns chaotic when Abby is suddenly attacked by Rohan and stabbed several times. Marcus and the other crew members attempt to stop him through the intercom, but Rohan completely ignores their warnings. He then moves toward Tony, who had been hiding behind the hanging clothes. Watching everything unfold through the monitor, Emma can no longer stay still. Without thinking twice, she rushes toward the room while grabbing a screwdriver she finds nearby as a weapon for self-defense. However, when she finally arrives at the location, the scene she encounters is far worse than she imagined. Tony is already dead, hanging in the room, while Abby's body has been thrown out through the window. Seeing that the situation is spiraling out of control, Marcus quickly warns Emma through the intercom to leave immediately because, through the cameras, he can see that Rohan is moving closer to her position.
Tony's dead.
Oh no.
Where's Abby?
Shit,
Emmy, you gotta get out of there. He's heading back. Please don't. Emmy, you there?
Where are the others?
I'm not gonna let you get a few the long way. Yeah, the guy's got a few skillets in the closet, but we honestly.
Soon, a long chase begins throughout the hospital building. While running, Emma demands an explanation and asks Marcus who Rohan really is. After a moment of hesitation, Marcus finally admits that Rohan is a former patient of the mental hospital who has a dark past and once committed dangerous acts. Hearing that confession makes Emma even angrier because she feels Marcus deliberately hid important information that could endanger the entire team. As she runs through the dark corridors, Emma eventually enters a room that is almost completely unlit. She tries to figure out her direction by looking at a camera mounted in the corner of the room, but Marcus suddenly tells her that they never installed a camera there. Hearing that makes Emma panic even more because it means she is now in an area that is not monitored by the crew. Terrified, she runs upstairs and accidentally runs into Suze in one of the hallways. Unfortunately, before Emma can explain what is happening, Rohan appears and attacks Suze, killing her instantly. With no chance to help her friend, Emma is forced to leave her behind and keep running. After some time, Rohan finally manages to corner Emma in front of a locked door and nearly kills her. Just as the situation becomes extremely dangerous, JD suddenly appears from behind the door and pulls Emma inside the room. The two of them quickly lock the door from the inside, temporarily escaping Rohan's pursuit. Inside the room, Emma immediately contacts Marcus and Dick in the control room, begging them to call the authorities for help. However, the response she receives only makes her more frustrated because they say they are still trying to find a way to handle the situation without causing serious legal consequences for their show. Then suddenly, Rohan arrives at the control room where Marcus and Dick are, appearing to kill them both. Emma and JD can only watch helplessly through the camera monitors, without being able to do anything. Realizing that they could be the next victims if they remain inside the building, Emma and JD decide to escape as quickly as possible. They run outside toward the team's car parked in the yard. But when they try to start the vehicle, JD realizes that the car keys are missing. With no other option, he decides to go back to the control room to get the spare keys while Emma waits inside the car. Unfortunately, that decision only makes things worse. While Emma is waiting, she suddenly realizes that someone is sitting in the backseat of the car. In a moment of panic, Emma instinctively stabs the screwdriver she is holding into Rohan's hand before quickly jumping out of the car and running away. Rohan screams in pain, and at that moment, the real truth finally begins to unfold. It turns out that everything horrifying Emma has just experienced is actually part of a massive prank that has been planned by her own team. Rohan is not a real killer at all, but an actor who was involved in the scenario. The crew members who previously appeared to be victims are actually still alive, because the real target of the elaborate prank was never Rohan, but Emma herself. Feeling intense pain from the screwdriver wound, Rohan immediately curses at Marcus through the intercom, saying that the insane plan has gone too far. Marcus tries to calm him down, explaining that everything is simply part of the show, but Rohan is already furious. He cuts off the communication and declares that he no longer wants to be involved in the game.
You see what you fucking did? That was fantastic. Rowan, yes.
My name is Trent, you asshole.
You call time now, or I'm out of here.
Stay in character a little bit longer and channel that pain, yeah? What's he done? Get him back online.
After the connection ends, he attempts to pull the screwdriver out of his hand. However, just when everyone thinks the situation is nothing more than a chaotic prank gone wrong, something far more terrifying happens. From the darkness, two mysterious figures wearing frightening masks emerge while holding cameras in their hands. At first, Rohan assumes that they are still part of Marcus's team, but that assumption quickly proves to be wrong. Without saying much, the masked figures suddenly attack him and brutally kill him. Meanwhile, Marcus, who has no idea what is actually happening, tries to contact all the crew members through the intercom and instructs them to stay in their positions while he plans to meet Rohan personally to resolve the situation. At that time, Tony is still hiding on the lower floor while Suze's whereabouts remain unknown. In the control room, Dick, who is alone, begins noticing strange disturbances on several camera feeds and tries to fix the system that suddenly seems unstable. In another part of the building, Emma enters a room and accidentally discovers a laptop displaying a live feed from Dick's camera. When Dick realizes that Emma is watching the footage, he quickly shuts the camera off because he is worried that their prank plan might be revealed too soon. But shortly afterward, Dick notices a masked man appearing on one of the screens connected to the control room cameras. Suddenly, one of the masked figures appears behind him and wraps a sharp wire around his neck, killing him in a brutal way. Elsewhere, Emma, who is beginning to feel that something is seriously wrong, examines the laptop she found earlier. She is shocked when she discovers several recordings showing that everything that happened before was indeed designed as a prank meant to make her the main victim of the episode. Overwhelmed with anger, Emma shouts toward the camera in the room, demanding Marcus to appear and explain everything, but no response comes. Unbeknownst to Emma, some of the cameras in that room do not belong to their team at all, but to the masked figures who have already begun moving through the building. Meanwhile, Marcus rushes toward the van to meet Rohan, but when he arrives, he discovers that Rohan is already lying there lifeless. In panic, he tries to call someone for help, but his phone receives no signal. He also attempts to contact Dick in the control room, but there is no response. Suddenly, in the distance, he sees several figures slowly walking toward him. They are wearing disturbing masks that immediately look familiar to him. Marcus quickly remembers the video from the dark web that Vicky showed the team earlier during their meeting. The figures look exactly like the group known as Masked Freaks. Without wasting another second, Marcus turns around and runs away to save himself until he eventually runs into Emma. Instead of feeling relieved, Emma immediately punches Marcus in the face because she still believes that all the chaos is just another massive prank designed to make her the main victim. Marcus hurriedly tries to explain that Rohan is already dead. However, Emma, still filled with anger and distrust, refuses to believe him because Marcus had previously turned her into the target of a prank without her knowing. Not long after that, several masked intruders begin appearing from different directions. Emma, who still thinks everything is part of Marcus's plan, even tries to fight one of them. But when she is effortlessly thrown to the ground by the masked man, Emma finally realizes that the situation they are facing is no longer a game. The members of Masked Freaks then surround Marcus and Emma as if they are ready to end everything right there. However, suddenly, one of them receives a message through an intercom device. Without giving any explanation, the entire group withdraws and leaves the area. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Marcus and Emma quickly move to search for the other members of their team, hoping that someone might still be alive after the chaos. But that hope is immediately crushed when they find JD lying lifeless on the floor with a camera stuck in his stomach. Marcus then plays the recording from that camera and sees how the masked men entered the room, attacked JD, and then took Abby away with them. A few moments after the recording ends, the voice of the masked group's leader echoes through the building's communication system. He orders Marcus and Emma to come to the control room if they want to know Abby's fate. With no other choice, Marcus and Emma decide to follow the instruction. On their way to the control room, Emma picks up a sharp weapon she finds in one of the rooms as a precaution in case they are attacked again. When they finally arrive at the control room, Marcus suddenly feels something dripping onto his face. When he looks up, he realizes that the drops are blood coming from Sousa's lifeless body hanging from the ceiling of the room.
This is how the new entertainment works. We'd like to thank you for being such compelling victims. One of our biggest fans suggested the idea.
Shortly afterward, the monitor screens that previously displayed security cameras suddenly switch to a hijacked broadcast. On the screen, they see Tony in another room, facing a horrifying fate, and the entire event is shown live, directly in front of them. A few moments later, the leader of the masked freaks appears on the broadcast and begins explaining the purpose behind everything that has been happening. He says that all the actions they carried out are not simply meaningless chaos, but a performance streamed to entertain their audience on the internet. Ironically, this time, the spectacle is no longer the victims of pranks, but the prank creators themselves. After saying that, he then shows another recording that makes Marcus and Emma even more panicked. In the video, Abby can be seen buried alive inside a coffin hidden beneath the ground. The leader of the masked freaks then gives them 5 minutes to find the location of the coffin before Abby runs out of air. Hearing this, Marcus and Emma immediately run out of the room to search for the location.
No one's got it.
You've seen those movies where people get buried alive?
Come on.
Along the way, they are attacked by one of the masked men, but Emma manages to kill him. When they remove the mask, they are shocked to discover that the person who attacked them is only a teenage boy. Without wasting any more time, Marcus and Emma finally manage to find the place where Abby is buried. They quickly dig through the soil until they manage to open the coffin and pull Abby out just before she completely runs out of breath.
No! Come on!
However, when they try to escape from that place, the masked men appear again and surround them from all directions. The leader of the group speaks once more, saying that in their game, there is never truly a happy ending. Even so, he reveals one surprising decision. The viewers watching their broadcast have chosen for Emma to be allowed to live. She is even given the chance to save one person from the situation. Hearing this decision, Marcus finally accepts the reality that he may not leave the place alive. He chooses to sacrifice himself and tells Emma to take Abby away as quickly as possible. With no other choice, Emma takes Abby to the van and immediately leaves the location to search for help.
No one said anything about letting you live. They've asked us to keep you alive. You can take one of them with you.
You know what to do, Em.
I'm sorry.
Get away from her, you fucking...
Meanwhile, Marcus is left behind and beaten until he loses consciousness. Sometime later, Marcus wakes up inside a dark room and sees one of his colleagues becoming the victim of a horrifying experiment in front of him. With the little courage he has left, Marcus mocks the masked freaks and says that what they are doing has no creativity at all, because in his opinion they are nothing more than cruel people who rely on violence to attract attention. However, in response to his insult, the group shows him a recording that reveals a truly shocking truth. In the video, it is revealed that Abby has actually been working with the masked freaks from the very beginning. She intentionally joined Marcus's team as a spy who secretly leaked all of their plans to the group. After learning this truth, Marcus surprisingly looks impressed by the way the group designed their game. He even admits that the twist in their plan is quite clever. Not long afterward, the masked men carry Marcus on a stretcher toward a large furnace where he's about to be burned alive.
The fuck's going on? Where's the craft? Where's the twist?
Are you sure they're gonna buy it? I can go again.
I thought you were great.
Actually, pretty good.
Meanwhile, in another place, Emma and Abby are seen driving away in the van. But in the middle of the journey, Emma begins to realize something. Inside the van, there is a camera still turned on and pointed directly at them. That discovery makes Emma realize that what they have just gone through might not truly be over yet, and the story comes to an end.